Good morning, everybody. It's me, Sophie, here with Storytime, and it is Friday, which means we're getting ready for the weekend, and I thought it'd be fun to do some tall tales. Now, you might ask, what is a tall tale? Well, it's just like it sounds. It's a tale that might have a bit of truth, but we stretch it out and make it a little bit more exciting by adding some fun elements like here's something that might be a tall tale. Somebody who was so stretchy that they could reach their arm all the way up and pick the moon from the sky and eat it for a snack. So that is what we might call a tall tale. There's an element of truth to it. Maybe they're very stretchy, but can they really stretch all the way up to the moon? That's neither here nor there for us to see. Well, let's get started. We are going to start with my favorite book, Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. I should say one of my favorite books because I have so many favorite books. I love books, if you haven't figured that one out. So this is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And this tall tale, or poem, is called Jimmy Jett and His TV Set. I'll tell you the story of Jimmy Jett, and you know what I'll tell you is true. He loved to watch his TV set almost as much as you. He watched all day, he watched all night, till he grew pale and lean, from the early show to the late, late show, and all the shows in between. He watched till his eyes were frozen wide, and his bottom grew into his chair, and his chin turned into a dial, and antennas grew out of his hair. And his brains turned into TV tubes, and his face to a TV screen, and two knobs saying vert and horiz grew where his ears had been. And he grew a plug that looked like a tail, so we plugged in little Jim. And now instead of watching TV, we all sit around and watch him. Oh dear, there's Jimmy Jett, and he turned into a TV set. So that's sort of a tall tale. It isn't a tall tale to think that there might be somebody who sits around and watches so much TV that their eyes stare open all the time. But the fact that he turned into a TV himself, maybe a little bit of what we call a tall tale. Well, let's say hello, because there's nothing tall about saying hello, is there? Let's wave hello. Hello, how are you? Oh, hello. How are you? Oh, hello. How are you? I'm just fine today. I'm glad to see you here today. I'm glad to see you here today. I'm glad to see you here today. I'm so glad to see you. Okay, now, because this is Tall Tale Day, let's stretch really tall like we're going to reach up and touch that moon. Reach really tall and touch the moon, and reach really tall and touch the moon, and reach really tall and touch the moon. I'm so glad to see you. Okay, let's twirl around so fast that we're going to drill all the way down into the center of the earth. Here we go. Twirl, twirl, twirl as fast as you can, and twirl, twirl, twirl as fast as you can, and twirl, twirl, twirl as fast as you can. I'm so glad to see you. Okay, why don't we jump up and down? And let's jump so high we're going to touch the sky. Jump so high you touch the sky, and jump so high you touch the sky. Jump so high you touch the sky. I'm so glad to see you. Now, one of the things they used to tell me when I was a little girl is that if I made too many faces, it would stick that way. Now, that's not really a tall tale, but I think more of a warning. But that gives us a chance to make some funny faces, shall we? Like a funny face, say as funny as you can, and make a funny face as funny as you can. Make a funny face as funny as you can. I'm so glad to see you. Very good. You guys make the best funny faces. Okay, let's do this. Let's wave hello and get our Tall Tale Day started. Hello, how are you? Oh, hello. end of the week already? I can't. This week has just flown by like a big giant bird. Well, let's get started with some of our tall tales. Now, we've never read from this big book before. We've read Dr. Seuss together, but I've never read from this big book. And this big book is called Six by Seuss. And it's a treasury of Dr. Seuss classics. It's very heavy, so I hope my arm doesn't drop as I'm reading to you. Okay, we are going to be reading today Six by Seuss, by Dr. Seuss. A story called, And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. I'm very excited to read this to you. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. When I leave home to walk to school, Dad always says to me, Marco, keep your eyelids up and see what you can see. But when I tell him where I've been and what I've seen, he looks at me and sternly says, Your eyesight's much too keen. Stop telling such outlandish tales. Stop turning minnows into whales. Now what can I say when I get home today? All the long way to school and all the way back, I've looked and I've looked and I've kept careful track. But all that I've noticed, except my own feet, was a horse and a wagon on Mulberry Street. Just a horse and wagon. Although I find that very interesting in today's day. Oh, that's nothing to tell of. That won't do, of course. Just a broken down wagon that's drawn by a horse. That can't be my story. That's only a start. I'll say that a zebra was pulling that cart. And that is a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Yes, the zebra is fine, but I think it's a shame, such a marvelous beast with a cart that's so tame. And the story would really be better to hear if the driver I saw was a charioteer. A golden blue chariot, something to meet, rumbling and fumbling down Mulberry Street. That's much more exciting, isn't it? I have a feeling this is going to get much more exciting as the pages I turn. No, it won't do at all. A zebra's too small. A reindeer is better. He's fast and he's fleet, and he's mighty smart on Mulberry Street. Look at that big reindeer. Hold on a minute. There's something wrong. A reindeer hates the way it feels to pull things that run on wheels. He'd be much happier instead if he could pull a fancy sled. I like those two children in the sled. A reindeer and sleigh. Say, anyone could think of that. Jack or Fred or Joe or Nat. Say, even Jane could think of that. But it isn't too late to make one little change. A sleigh and an elephant. There's something strange. I'll pick one with plenty of power and size, a blue one with plenty of fun in his eyes, and then just to give him a little more tone, have a Raja with rubies perched high on a throne. Say, that makes a story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. That's a pretty blue elephant, isn't it? But now I don't know. It still doesn't seem right. An elephant pulling a thing that's so light. It would whip around in the air like a kite. But he'd look simply grand with a great big brass band. These pages just keep filling up with pictures, don't they? A band that's so good should have something to hear it, but it's going so fast and it's hard to keep near it. I'll put on a trailer. I know they won't mind if a man sits and listens while hitched on behind. But now it's not fair. Is it fair what I've done? I'll bet those wagons weigh more than a ton. That's really too heavy a load for one beast. I'll give him some helpers. He'll need 2, at least. Can you see what those 2 helpers are? They look like giraffes to me. And look, there's a little man riding behind. Oh, but now what worries me is this. Mulberry Street runs into Bliss. Unless there's something I can fix up, there'll be an awful traffic mix-up. Well, it's good that he's thinking about traffic, huh? It takes police to do the trick, to guide them through that traffic's thick. It takes police to do the trick. They'll never crash now. They'll race at top speed with Sergeant Mulvaney himself in the lead. Sergeant Mulvaney, there he is, right in the front. My goodness, this is like a parade. Ah, the mayor is there, and he thinks it is grand, and he raises his hat as they dash by the stand. The mayor is there, and the aldermen too, all waving big banners of red, white, and blue. And that is the story that no one can beat when I say that I saw it on Mulberry Street. With the roar of its motor, an airplane appears and dumps out confetti while everyone cheers. And that makes a story that's really not bad, but it still could be better. Suppose that I add... Goodness, what do you think he could add? A Chinese man who eats with sticks, a big magician doing tricks, a 10-foot beard that needs a comb, no time for more. I'm almost home. I swung round the corner and dashed through the gate. I ran up the steps and I felt simply great. For I had a story that no one can beat, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. But Dad said quite calmly, just draw up your stool and tell me the sights on the way home from school. There was so much to tell, I just couldn't begin. Dad looked at me sharply and pulled at his chin. He frowned at me sternly from there in his seat. Was there nothing to look at? No people to greet? Did nothing excite you or make your heart beat? He's running up those steps really fast because he was really excited. Nothing, I said, growing red as a beet. Just a plain horse and wagon on Mulberry Street. And that is from 6 by Seuss, a treasury of Dr. Seuss classics, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Well, I promise there are 5 other stories in here, so I will be bringing this book out again to share with you some other stories from Dr. Seuss. But in the meantime, I would like to sing you a silly song. It's called Waddle-Yacha, and I don't need the guitar for this one. So here's how it goes. You guys can help me because it's got some hand motions. It goes like this. Waddle-yacha, waddle-yacha. And then let's make some birdie wings. Doodly-doo, doodly-doo. Waddle-yacha, waddle-yacha. Finger again. Doodly-doo, doodly-doo. It's the simplest tune. Nothing much to it. All you gotta do is doodly-do it. I like the rest, but the part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. Let's try that one more time. Waddle-yacha, waddle-yacha, doodly-doo, doodly-doo. Waddle-yacha, waddle-yacha, doodly-doo. Doodly-doo, it's the simplest thing, nothing much to it, all you gotta do is doodly-do it. I like the rest, but the part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. Let's go a little faster. Waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, a doodly-doo, a doodly-doo. Waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, doodly-doo. Doodly-doo, it's the simplest thing. Nothing much to it, all you gotta do is doodly-doo it. I like the rest, but the part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. And faster, waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, a doodly-doo, a doodly-doo. A waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, a doodly-doo, doodly-doo. It's the simplest thing, nothing much to it. All you gotta do is doodly-doo it. I like the rest, but the part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. And faster, waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, doodly-doo, doodly-doo. Waddly-ah-cha, waddly-ah-cha, doodly-doo, doodly-doo. It's the simplest thing, nothing much to it. All you gotta do is doodly-doo it. I like the rest, but the part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. Faster, doodly-doo, 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 doodly-doo. So nothing much to it, all you gotta do, doodly-doo it. I like the best, part I like best goes doodly-doodly-doo. I hope you like that. That's fun to get us going this morning, huh? It's called Waddly-ah-cha. Isn't that crazy? Okay, are you ready for another book? This is another tall tale. I have to catch my breath. That's my exercise for the day. This one is called Johnny Caw. And Johnny Caw is a tall tale by Devin Scillan and Brad Sneed. Let me show you that picture there. It's a little tiny. Whew. I have to catch my breath. Johnny Caw. This is for Steve and Martha Brown, and for all my young Kansas friends. Johnny Caw. That is wheat. You may never have seen wheat close up, but that's wheat. It's neat to have wheat. He was born on a night when a stormy wind blew. 5 minutes old, already 6'2". And there never a baby as big as Johnny Caw. That bodacious baby was the talk of the town. Folks came to look from all around. Seemed every hour he gained a pound. The doctors paced and fretted and frowned. But the baby just smiled in a crib way too small for Johnny Caw. Look at that big baby. He's so big. Look at all the people looking in the window. Look at the doctors wondering what to do. And look how big that baby is. That's Johnny Caw. 10 gallons of milk and 4 loaves of bread, 5 or 6 quarts of strawberry spread, a dozen eggs, grapes by the bunch, and then a snack to hold him till lunch. Ma said, Pa, he needs room to play, and if that boy's going to eat this way, we're going to need a farm big enough for our Johnny Caw. Look at Ma. That's a lot of food. Well, no wonder. Look at Johnny Caw. Look how big he is. So on a hot sunny day, they packed and dressed. Pa built a wagon and pointed it west. But there wasn't near enough room for Johnny Caw. The big boy laughed and said, Pay it no mind, I'd rather walk, I'm feeling fine. And they left that city far behind. Why, even the horses got to ride inside that wagon pulled along by Johnny Caw. Look how big Johnny is. That's a nice wagon his mom and dad made. And look at that. He ended up pulling the wagon with the horses inside. He's so big. The Missouri River was plenty wide, and by the time they reached the other side, Pa smiled and Ma cried, for they both knew deep down inside they'd found a home for them and Johnny Caw. Ooh, look at that beautiful river and those flowers, the turtle. Look at Johnny. He's carrying him across the river. Johnny sat down to pet his dog Sally, and when he got up, he had made a little valley where Ma and Pa could build their shack. And there on the little porch out back, Pa hung a swing, wooden and white, where Ma watched the sun set every night. And life just felt so very right to them and Johnny Caw. Look at Johnny helping to put the roof on. And Ma's watching the sunset. Oh, now this is it. Here we go. At day's first light, behind a horse and cow, Pa set out with a razor-sharp plow. But each step he took seemed to rattle his bones, for the earth was full of jagged stones, and it looked like a job for Johnny Caw. Let me show you the picture there. So there's Pa. And there you can see the horses. They're pulling the sledge, trying to cut that earth. Look at Johnny. Johnny's picking up those rocks, and he's throwing them far away. With his great big hands, he reached down below, and he pulled up each stone, and he gave it a throw. And in no time at all, the big boy's toil had created the world's most perfect soil. All those stones, as you might have guessed, made quite a pile way out west. Pa just laughed when the day was done, and the Rocky Mountains gleamed in the sun. All in all, it was kind of fun, laughed gentle Johnny Caw. So that's how the mountains were born. The Rocky Mountains. Pa poked the dirt with a long-handled hoe and thought about which crop he might grow. Beneath the sun that was bright as brass, Johnny was chewing on a big blade of grass. He spat out some seeds that blew in the wind, and before he and Pa could even begin, there were miles and miles of wheat to tend. Honest to goodness, you done it again, Pa said to big Johnny Caw. Can you see Johnny? Look how tall he is. He's blowing out that grass, and look what happens. All that wheat. That's a lot of wheat. Late that day, in their back porch swing, Pa played the fiddle and Ma would sing. A perfect sunset fell on the plain over miles and miles of a golden grain, and gentle and sweet were the dreams of Johnny Caw. He's sound asleep. Look, and there's Ma and Pa. One day, Pa says, smells like rain, and a great wind turned the old weather vane. Ma said, it's fine, the wheat needs to grow, but that mighty wind began to blow and blow and blow and blow, you know. The western sky turned a wicked black, the thunder rolled and the lightning cracked, and Johnny said, I'll be right back. And he turned in a lick with a scythe that he'd made from a cottonwood trunk and a windmill blade. He smiled at his folks and he said, don't be afraid, and off towards that storm ran Johnny Caw. There he goes. Wonder what he's going to do. That cyclone twister was 5 miles wide, ripping up trees to toss them aside. It turned to the right and then it turned back, and its path led right to Ma and Pa's shack. But Johnny stood tall in the cyclone's roar, guarding the porch at Mom's and Pa's door. Whoa, there he is, look. Oh my goodness. He's standing right between the tornado and the house. Oh, let's see. Look. He swung that scythe as he began to laugh out loud, and sliced off the top with the cyclone cloud. The wind died away, and the rain so sweet fell gentle and soft on his glistening wheat. Tickled the toes of the big bare feet of happy Johnny Caw. So life was perfect in every way, with sunsets and songs to the end of each day. But when Johnny's ma was old and gray, one winter morning she passed away. And for the first time since he was born, Johnny didn't have a smile that he'd worn. And sad as he was, Pa was mostly worried about Johnny Caw. Oh, he looks very sad, doesn't he? But Johnny could hear her tender song, for the old woman's spirit was still so strong. He said, Pa, she's here. I know it's true. And Pa said, Son, I think so too. She was everywhere and all around, and she'd want to watch that sun go down. Yes, sure as rain, she'd want her view. So Johnny Caw knew what to do. He cleared every tree and left Kansas bare so she could see that sunset from anywhere. Up through Nebraska, across the Platte, tree after tree was knocked down flat. Into the Dakotas, to the great white north, he swung his scythe back and forth. Across Oklahoma and down Texas way, and lo and behold, at the end of the day, the golden beam of the sun's last ray shone on the prairie and in the smile of Johnny Caw. So he cleared all those trees and made them into the great plains of the center of our state. The center of our country. And wherever she was smiling too, and Pa and Sally and me and you. For those fields of gold and skies of blue still shine each morning and glisten anew, because that crib and that city were way too small for Johnny Caw. And that's the story of Johnny Caw. That's a tall tale, isn't it? It certainly is a tall, tall tale. And this song is about how big and tall Mr. Johnny is. He's so tall that he got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole wide world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the little bitty baby in his hands. He got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got you and me, brother, in his hands. He got you and me, sister, in his hands. He got you and me, brother, in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the wind and the rain in his hands. He got the sun and the moon in his hands. He got the sea and the sand in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. Well, those were two long stories today, weren't they? Let's see, we think we have time just to do one last little A.A. Milne when we were very young, and this is called Lines and Squares, and I have to tell you a story. When I was a little girl, the lines and the squares, this really made a difference in my life because I would never walk on the lines when I was a little girl. Whenever I walk in a London street, I'm ever so careful to watch my feet, and I keep in the squares and the masses of bears who wait on the corners, all ready to eat the sillies who tread on the lines of the street. go back to their lairs, and I say to them, bears, just look at how I'm walking on all of the squares. And the little bears growl to each other, he's mine, as soon as he's silly and steps on a line. And some of the bigger bears try to pretend that they came round the corner to look for a friend. And then they try to pretend that nobody cares, whether you walk on the line or the squares. But only the sillies believe their talk. It's ever so important how you walk, and it's ever so jolly to call out, bears, just watch me walking on all of the squares. I remember that very, very distinctly when I was a child, walking in the squares and not on the lines, even though it was just a silly tale. Well, everybody, we better quickly say goodbye because we are at the end of our time. But I will be back on Monday with many, many more songs and stories for you, and we'll start out a brand new week together. So let's say goodbye. Goodbye, Ollie. Goodbye, Allie. Goodbye, Maya. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, Danny. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Isabella. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, Marissa. Goodbye, JC. Goodbye, Delilah. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, Madeline. Goodbye, Alfie. Goodbye, Susie. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great, great weekend. And let's do a high five. There's a high five for you. And let's give ourselves a big hug. One hand on one shoulder. One hand on the other shoulder, and squeeze. That's my big weekend hug to you. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you next week.